NPR News, I'm Jeff London in New York.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Rob Schmitz.
And I'm Layla Falded. Marketplace Morning Report is coming up next. And then in 10 minutes at 9 o'clock, it's the BBC News Hour. Let's check in and see what they're working on. What's up, London?
Good morning, WNYC. I'm Celia Hatton. On today's News Hour, Romania's surprise election result. How did a little-known far-right candidate win the first round? Germany's former Chancellor Angela Merkel defends her decision to block Ukraine's NATO membership. And Wicked. Is it a joy or an annoyance to sing along at the cinema? That's BBC News Hour coming up at 9 on WNYC.
Mostly sunny skies this morning. It's 42 degrees and it'll remain sunny today with highs hitting about 52.
WNYC is supported by Story Publishing, presenting the universe in verse, 15 portals of wonder through science and poetry, an illustrated collection of short essays and accompanying poems by Maria Popova of The Marginalian, available wherever books are sold. The following message is from the MTA. Now through December 24th, the Grand Central Holiday Fair in Vanderbilt Hall spotlights dozens of vendors selling gifts like homemade bath products, jewelry, art prints, and more.
On the next Brian Lehrer Show, we continue our WNYC Centennial Series, 100 Years of 100 Things. It's thing number 42, 100 Years of Shirley Chisholm. She was born 100 years ago this week. We'll have Zinga Fraser, director of the Shirley Chisholm Project at Brooklyn College. Also, our transition coverage continues with our Monday Morning Politics segment. The Brian Lehrer Show, weekdays at 10 a.m. on WNYC.
Scott Bessent is President-elect Donald Trump's pick for Treasury Secretary.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive Insurance. Progressive is looking for individuals who want to join an inclusive and unique culture. More information, including application, at progressive.com/careers.
From Marketplace, I'm Sabri Benishore, in for David Brancaccio. President-elect Donald Trump wants Scott Bessent to serve as his next Treasury Secretary. Bessent will need, of course, to be confirmed by the Senate. Bessent currently heads hedge fund Key Square Capital Management. He previously worked for Soros Fund Management. If confirmed, Bessent will have authority in areas ranging from the IRS to economic sanctions. Here he is in a post-election interview on Fox and Friends prior to his appointment.
Everyone asks me, what do you tell President Trump he should do? I don't have to tell Donald Trump he should do anything. He's done it. We had a great economy under Trump 1.0.
Joining us to talk about this is Karen Petru, co-founder and managing partner of Federal Financial Analytics. Good morning, Karen.
Morning, Sabri.
When it comes to coming up with economic policy for the president, you know, the Treasury Department is the department. Do you want to remind everyone what the Secretary of the Treasury does?
Well, certainly, as you just said, he or she handles economic policy, tax policy. The value of the dollar is the Treasury's responsibility, but least as important is handling the Treasury bond market. The United States, particularly now that we're issuing so much debt to fund so many programs, has to have a sound operating Treasury bond market. And the world has to have a sound and operating Treasury bond market because Treasury bonds are the global currency of finance around the world.
You know, Scott Bessent runs an investment group. He has hedge fund experience. What in his background do you think is most important for thinking about what kind of Treasury Secretary he might be?
First and foremost is his knowledge of the Treasury bond market. Even little things that go wrong with the Treasury market can have catastrophic consequences. And any fundamental failure of the Treasury market, for example, if Congress starts messing the debt ceiling again, it could cost taxpayers literally trillions. We spend $2 trillion a year as is on interest. And the Treasury Secretary has to know how to minimize that and keep the bond market operating as smoothly as possible.
What is the typical background of a Treasury Secretary? I mean, Scott Bessent, you know, runs an investment firm. Is that pretty typical for the kind of experience that Treasury Secretaries come with?
Other than maybe Alexander Hamilton's background, it's pretty typical. Gallatin, many others followed exactly that model.
Bessent has floated the idea of creating a quote-unquote shadow Fed chair. So basically nominate the next Fed chair super early to kind of take the wind out of the sails of the current Fed chair. What is the point of that, and would that work?
Well, I'm not sure of the point, but I don't think it will work at all. And it's important to remember that the Fed chair does not set monetary policy. The Federal Open Market Committee does. And while historically the FOMC has dutifully and sometimes over-dutifully followed the Fed chair, if there's a significant deviation at the chairmanship from where the other 11 members think the national interest lies, they'll bolt.
Karen Petru, co-founder and managing partner of Federal Financial Analytics, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks again.
All right, let's do the numbers. Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are all up in the 6 to 0.8% range, with the Dow futures up 348 points. The yield on the 10-year Treasury is 4.319%.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Bitwarden Password Manager, empowering Cyber Monday shoppers with secure and convenient autofill payment options. Available at bitwarden.com. And by The Economist, devoted to providing independent journalism that makes sense of the news shaping the world. More at economist.com or with The Economist app, newsletters, and podcasts.
20 years ago, Blizzard Entertainment launched World of Warcraft, a massively multiplayer online role-playing game that brought together millions of users from all over the world to the fictional planet of Azeroth. Since then, the video game has left its mark on the industry and an entire generation of gamers. Marketplace's Elizabeth Troval has that.
In the mid-2000s, Josh Kaufman was in his 20s, working, researching his book, The Personal MBA, and playing World of Warcraft.
This is what I did to blow off some steam in the evenings.
While playing the game, he noticed it wasn't far off from running a business.
As a player in Warcraft, you're creating valuable items, and you're marketing and selling them, and you're delivering them to other players who are paying you for them, and you're receiving currency.
World of Warcraft can also be helpful for understanding the macro of it all. USC professor Dimitri Williams says watching players interact in a world was like having a petri dish for studying economics and human behavior.
If you are, the god of this world, you're programming it, you could be like, I'm going to raise the price of potions, and we're going to see what happens to supply and demand. You can run experiments in a way the Fed can't do.
The game was also a way, before social media really took off, to socialize online. NYU professor Joost van Drunen.
Now you have this virtual space, this digital environment that you could explore for hours. And so that's, what my friends and I would do. We would almost forfeit our time playing pool at the bar. And instead, I'll go to our respective little rooms in the East Village and go play World of Warcraft.
It also took gaming into the mainstream, he says.
They just managed to plug into this moment, this cultural moment, making it one of the most successful multiplayer online games in the history of the industry.
World of Warcraft also proved the viability of a new business model for the video game industry, says Jesper Juhl, video game theorist with the Royal Danish Academy.
The World of Warcraft was the first game in the West that became really a phenomenon, but was based on subscriptions rather than just on the upfront purchase, right?
While subscriptions are now popular for many kinds of media, it wasn't so common back then, says Matt Piscatella, a video game industry analyst with Circana.
At the time, the idea of paying an upfront fee to get into the game by purchasing the game and then having the additional monthly service fee was pretty revolutionary and, of course, very appealing to video game companies that all try to copy the formula.
And many of World of Warcraft's subscribers have stuck around, he says, in part because of the strong communities that developed years ago. I'm Elizabeth Troval for Marketplace.
And in New York, I'm Sabri Benishore with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.